Hello, I'm the lone journalist for KRAZ-TV. For the Zero channel, that's our adult side, it's another book review. A great book it is. Appalling story, of course, and it just goes on and on. A spy fail. Foreign spies, moles, saboteurs, and the collapse of America's counterintelligence by James Bamford. Well, we've started on this little line of books, and if you go back into the Zero channel and start at Hidden History, the Origins of World War I, all the way up through this book. So it included this book. I bought this book from reading it at the library. It's called Killing the Planet, How a Financial Cartel Doomed Mankind they tell me how this is the world ends. It's a investigative journalist talking about computer 0 days and exploits and stuff by the NSA. Well, this is what happened, and this is the culmination of, how it started and where we're at today. So this is Bamford. He is a best-selling author, Emmy-nominated filmmaker for PBS, award-winning investigative journalist for ABC News, and winner of the National Magazine Award for reporting for his writing in Rolling Stone on the war in Iraq. He has also circumvented the surface of the earth, crossing every meridian of longitude by land and sea, and was elected to membership in the Explorer Club. Well, he, like that investigative journalist for the New York Times, or get into some real, I don't know how they get the data and not be hurt by people, because this is some real explosive data here. It is James Bamford, the best-selling author of The Puzzle Palace and The Body of Secrets, pulls back the cloak of secrecy on foreign espionage and covert operations targeting innocent Americans, many ongoing, as well as the spies infiltrating presidential campaigns. Enormously damaging, these are operations that U.S. counterspies have utterly failed to stop. When FBI agents raided the Mar-a-Lago home of former President Donald Trump in August 2022, they discovered several hundred pages of classified documents in his basement and office, a dozen or so classified top secret. Instantly, there was widespread speculation as to potential grave danger to national security. But, as James Bamford reveals in Spy Fail, one of the intelligence community's deepest secrets was how many secrets it had lost during both the Obama and the Trump administrations. Rather than in the hundreds, the number was in the hundreds of millions of pages, virtually all classified above top secret, many of which are now sitting in Russian, Chinese, and North Korean vaults. Also stolen by the Russian and North Korean agents was nearly all of America's potentially deadly cyber weapons, which were then used to attack the U.S. Still, other countries planted damaging spies and moles at the highest level in recent presidential campaigns, again, completely undetected by the FBI's counter spies. Finally, Bamford unveils numerous foreign espionage and covert operations currently taking place throughout the U.S. These operations target thousands of innocent Americans, but they're allowed to continue due to extensive politicization of the counterintelligence process. as he has done in his previous best-selling books on U.S. intelligence community, including his trilogy on the ultra-secret National Security Agency. Bamford digs deeply into the inner workings of the country's spy agencies. This time his focus is on America's vulnerability to foreign espionage and covert operations and the failure to prevent them as a result of incompetence and the politicization of U.S. counterintelligence operations. That's a mouthful, but it's really awful. It really is. It's a failure, and they've just dug themselves deeper into the troubles that have happened. I just thought it was kind of ironic that he shows this picture of this padlock, which is the cheapest piece of crap you could ever have. So no wonder it's not a good lock at all. So I guess that's indicative of the condition of the agencies. Well, anyways, it starts out with Clapper going to a secret meeting in North Korea to do a prisoner exchange to get prisoners back and all of that stuff. So he meets with a guy named Son, who's really or General Kim, and Kim Jong-un. Well, he doesn't meet him, but he has little knowledge that they've already stolen all the secrets. A guy named Hal Martin, who worked for the NSA, and another guy named Foe had already stolen hundreds of millions of documents and had them stacked in their homes, you know. They just take them back. And this was all after Snowden, of course, and all of that stuff. So anyways, he did not know at the time that Korea that very night was doing a massive intrusion on American NSA and all that stuff. There's a thing called a zero-day and a zero-day exploits, and that means they find a vulnerability in the code and in the computer, and so then they build exploits that they can use as backdoors to get into other countries and do Stuxnet-type invasions and all of that. So that's really where it started. So then it got all used against us, of course. Of course, the book then now ends in the end of about one poor Russian woman. Her name is Maria Butina. She didn't have anything to do with it, but she hung out with this guy who was his name was Patrick. I'm not going to go into his last name. You have to read the book, but he tries to convince everybody that I'm going to get the data on her. She's a spy, you know, and she never was a spy, and she never had collusion or anything to do with our elections. And yet she was the scapegoat, and they held her for months, a year and 18 months in prison, to find out that they didn't really have anything on her, but they had to force her to sign a paper and a plea to a lesser so she could get out of jail, and now she went back to Russia. But it's just a sad story. But in the middle, and it's what's an amazing part, I thought, was all about Israel and how Israel has been our, well, we had favored nation status and all that with them, but Israel didn't care. They've spied on us ever since. They formed covert operations, and it was really about the Palestinian problem, and they didn't like American colleges and students, and Israeli students and Israeli people, Jewish people, saying, stop harassing the Palestinians. And that's really where it started. And so these political action groups, the American Israelis and all of that, did covert operations, and everybody gave money, and they harassed a lot of people to give them money to do these operations against anybody that did. It was called BDS. It was called boycott, disinvesture, and sanctions. And boy, Israel didn't want to hear that. And so they would destroy people's, and then make up false lists and say, now you're blacklisted. You're going to never get a job again. Like they're that important, you know. But a lot of people took it to heart and freaked out and wept their eyes out because now they were, on the crap list. So it's just awful. And one of the guy named Pho, he was an analyst and from Vietnam, and he worked his way in. Him and I think his brother, or no, there were two other brothers that were the Ma's and all that. But it just goes on and on how they stole all the data and shipped it out, sent it away. And then, of course, we would give, the other book explains how we give data to the United Arab Emirates because somebody didn't like the Crown Prince and talked about him. So they'd just go in and maybe even kill them, just because they didn't like it and they weren't practicing freedom anyway. So, oh my goodness, I can't believe this book's taken, I've already gone 11 minutes and I've just gotten barely into it. So it's a horrendous, horrendous story about, well, I hate to say it, but probably in a way we brought it on ourselves because all we wanted to do was tell everybody how everybody else should live and that they were all a danger even though they really didn't care two pennies about us and weren't going to do anything. But when it really started with Kim Jong-un being mocked by these Hollywood producers and a guy named Rosen who make a movie about, it's called The Interview, and it was about assassinating a foreign dictator. So they said, well, why not just put a real name on it and let's call it Kim Jong-un. So once they found that out, they destroyed them. They went in and hacked all of Sony systems. This happened a few years ago. And Amy Pascal, she was one of the top producers. She'd do despairing remarks about like Anna Jolie and all those emails. So they put that out. They just didn't like how they refused. And so this is freedom. We can show killing whoever we want. Well, it really turned out to be a mess for the United States for everybody, and it really turned out to be a boondoggle that, well, we're still paying for today, and I don't know how we'll get out of it. But this all came about by that great conspiracy of this, we call it elites, and it's not a conspiracy theory. Actually, if you read every bit of those 6 books that I've just talked about at the Zero Channel, and go get them and read them, and you'll find out how it got started in the 1800s and involved banks and industrialists and all of that. And then it turned into forced wars and the tragedies of all the wars in Vietnam and Korea, and every bit of it's all linked through these threads. So get the book and be appalled, because I was. And it is an appalling story. That's all I can tell you. We got this book at the Tucson Pima County Public Library, like you can get it at yours. It's called Spy Fail: Foreign Spies, Moles, Saboteurs, and the Collapse of American Counterintelligence by James Bamford. Thanks for watching. Watch all of our shows at KRAZ TV and go to the Zero Channel. Goodbye.